Hey, welcome back. You may have been thinking, well, how do I store ints? How do I store floats? How do I store booleans? These seem like really powerful tools. Can I use them? And so here's sort of the thing you need to watch out for. Um, Collections work with class types, but primitives are not classes. So, like, how do we get around that? And the way we get around that is there are these things called wrapper classes that are built in, and you may have seen them when we were looking at java.lang. In order to make a primitive work with a collection, it has to be an object. So we wrap the value of the primitive in a wrapper object of a related name. So, an int primitive is used as a capital I integer object. A float primitive is capital F float. A char primitive is an uppercase character, not the value, but the data type. So, like, it seems like this seems very cumbersome. What if I want to store a value of, okay, int I equals 18. Oh, so I need to make a new integer object, pass I into it. We'll put that into a variable called iwrap, and I can store that. And then when I get it back, I can ask the iwrap object for its int value and store it in an int primitive. That would be, and honestly, you can do that because that is the way the objects are defined. But there's this technique called auto-boxing and auto-unboxing, or auto-boxing and unboxing, which will automatically, when it sees a primitive that's being used where it needs the object, it will wrap it for you. And then when you then need the value, it will unwrap it and put it and implicitly call the accessor for you. So, for instance, if we have an array list of type integer, capital I, and I want to store an int in there, I pass the int in, and the list goes, oh, an int's coming in, let me turn it into an integer. Then, if I use the remove method to get that value out of the list and take it away from the array list, it returns a value, and it's returning a capital I integer, but it will be unboxed into just the int value, and it'll do that automatically. So it seems like, well, what's there to worry about? And the answer really has to do with keeping in mind that every time you generate objects, you are taking memory away from the heap. And when that object goes out of scope, that object gets marked as being able to be returned. And then at some point there is a garbage collection where the Java garbage collector goes through and goes through all of memory on the heap and says, oh, this can now be used for another purpose. If you're doing real-time simulation like games, you can't have a garbage collection in the middle of your update loop. It would be terrible in the middle of your rendering. It would create random lag at all sorts of times. For many business applications, though, waiting an extra half second to a quarter second, or maybe 2 seconds even, while it's annoying, is not a game changer. It's something that people would be willing to live with. So just know that auto-boxing and unboxing could fragment your memory and slow things down as the garbage collector has to work harder. So you do get the convenience of all of these classes with a little bit of additional overhead, and so you need to do some testing. I'm not saying never do it, but try it out and test it at the scale with either stored data sets or put it on a testing server before you put it into production to see what the impact is in real world behaviors.